Day 2 of lesson 6.3, we're going to continue with just a couple more examples to do. So remember that with a binomial, to whatever exponent they give me, I could use the distributive property, and I could write out 3 of these and start distributing. You guys are more than welcome to do that. However, I'm going to choose to use the binomial theorem to help me with that. So very first thing again is you always want to figure out what row you're dealing with. So we're dealing with row 3 from Pascal's triangle. And remember on Pascal's triangle, they start off row 0. We're going 1, 2, 3. So I know I'm going to have a 1, 3, 3, 1. Identify what your A term is, your first term. Our first term is a 5x. Identify what your second term is. So our B term is that negative 4y. So I'm going to write down that I've got a 1. I'm going to have a positive 3. I'm going to have another positive 3. And then I'm going to have a positive 1 from my coefficients. Now remember that your first term, which is the 5x, it always starts off with the power of the degree, and then it decreases by 1 each term. So this one descends. All right. The B term, or the second term, always starts off at 0. And remember that these two numbers should always add up to be the degree. So the next term, its exponents start to ascend by 1 each time. So that's going to increase, increases, and increases. Okay, so you can grab a calculator if you want. Okay, but I have a 1 times a 5 cubed times a negative 4 to the 0. So maybe I'll just go through and simplify this. 5 cubed is 125, and then the x is cubed. Anything to the 0 is 1. A 5x squared is going to give you a 25x squared. Negative 4y to the first, which should still be a negative 4y. Then I have plus a 3 5x to the first, which is just 5x. A negative 4y squared is going to give you the result of 16y squared. Plus 1 times anything to the 0 is 1. Negative 4y cubed gives me negative 64y cubed. And then just clean up each term. So this is going to simplify 1 times 125 times 1. That's my 125x cubed. Here I've got 3 times 25 times negative 4, so there's negative 100 times 3, so we get negative 300 x squared y. Here I'm going to say 3 times 5 times the 16, so there's 80 times 3, so that gives me 240 xy squared. And then I have 1 times negative 64, which is that negative 64y cubed. Okay. Let's look at the next one. So we have a 6th degree. This is going to be the longest one possible. Up here, this was a 5th degree. So 6th degree, I'm going to have to write small. So first of all, figure out your coefficients for row 6. So looking at Pascal's triangle, this was my row 5. Okay, so for row 6, I'm going to have a 1, a 6, a 15, 20, 15, 6, and 1. Remember that you're just adding the numbers from the ones above. Okay, so 1, 6, 15, 20, 15, 6, and 1. All right, so I'm going to say, there's my 1. Let's see, we've got 6, we've got a 15, we've got the 20, we have a 15 again, a 6, and a 1. All right. My A is going to be the x. So I know that I'm going to start off, the x is always to the 6, and then it descends. And then the b term starts off at 0 and then it increases. Okay, I should have put some pluses in between my terms there. Okay, so from here on out, it's just simplifying everything. So here's a 1 times an x to the 6th. This is times a 1. Here I have a 6. This is just x to the 5th. And then a negative 2y to the 1st is still just a negative 2y. Here I'm going to have plus the 15, that's x to the 4th. Negative 2y squared is going to give me a 4y squared. I'm going to say plus 20x cubed. Negative 2y cubed. Negative 2 is to the 3rd power is 8, negative 8. And then the y is cubed. Then I've got my 15, my x squared. Negative 2y to the 4th. Well, negative 2 to the 4th is 16. So we've got 16y to the 4th. Plus I have a 6. In x, a negative 2y to the 5th. Negative 2 to the 5th is negative 32. Y to the 5th. Plus, this is a 1 times a 1. Negative 2 to the 6th is negative, where are we at? 64 y to the 6th. Okay, so 1 times x to the 6th is x to the 6th. There's negative 12, so negative 12 x to the 5th y. I've got 15 times 4, so that gives me plus a 60 x to the 4th y squared. Here I'm going to have negative 160 x cubed y cubed. Here, I'm going to take the 15 times my 16, and we get 240 x squared y to the 4th. Here, I'm going to take the 6 times the 32, or the negative 32, and that's going to give me the negative 192 x y to the 5th. And then last, I've got 1 times the negative 64. Okay, and there's our binomial expanded.